I did not have a name until when I was 2 years old, from the age of 10 until I met a stranger who I was trying to steal from. That for the very first time, he said, "Hey, what's your name?" And that really rattled me because for all those years, no one human being had ever asked me my name.
And now you've gone through the journey of fostering 47 children, adopting how many officially?
Right now, 4, and I'm in the process of adopting the other 2. When we understand why they do what they do, there's a reason why. And that helps us to understand, to have empathy and love towards them because we understand the reason. Don't judge parents who have lost their children because we've never walked in their shoes. To rather say, how can I pray for you? How to be there for you. And in that way, we get to change one child at a time, one fair at a time, and one community act.
Welcome to Parenting the Now Generation. I am so thrilled to have Peter Mutabazi. I always want to make sure I say it right, Peter. Did I say it right?
Yes, you said it right. Well, thank you for having me here. I joy to be with you.
I'm so happy to have you. You have a massive community, and I hope they're all joining us today. You're known as, the foster and adoptive dad. I meant to ask you, why is your Instagram Foster Dad Flipper?
Well, I wanted to be a foster parent, and I knew I could not do it to an 8 to 5 job. So I moved to Oklahoma to flip houses, so I would buy homes and flip them so I can be a full-time dad. So that's where the name came from, foster dad, flipping houses, foster dad flipper. That's really
it's amazing. Okay, Peter, your story is unbelievable, and I just want you to take us back. You grew up, in your own words, poor, poverty-stricken, and I've heard you say poor, not in the way that somebody in the U.S. might think of poor, but poor in the way that somebody in Africa might be poor, on the streets of Uganda. And now you are this icon in the community, massive figure that is doing so much. Can you just kind of walk us through this journey? And I know it's a long story, but just give us the high level where you started to where you've become.
Right, yes. So I come from Uganda, in a small village called Kabade at the border of Uganda and Rwanda. And I grew up poor of the poorest. Think of this way. I did not have a name until when I was 2 years old. Why? Because for every 100 children were born in my village, 60 would die before the age of 2. So most moms didn't name their kids until they were 2. So at 2, she named me a gift given to me by God. I went to fetch water at the age of 3 miles away. I never had a choice to pick up a meal. So that was for me what life that I knew that I had to provide and grow so fast in order to provide for my family. And then at the age of 4, I began to realize that not only were poor, but my father was the most abusive human being to think of. Not just to me, but towards my mom as well. So at the age of 10, I knew him, he might kill me. So I was like, you know what? Why should I let him? So I ran away and became a street kid from the age of 10 to almost 16 years old, until I met a stranger who I was trying to steal from. For the very first time, as I was trying to take something from him, he said, "Hey, what's your name?" And that really rattled me. Why?
Because I'm sorry, you were trying to steal what from him?
Food. I was trying to steal food from him. And he didn't say, "You thief, you little boy." He just said, "Hey, what's your name?" And that's really what made me stop and think, wait a minute, is he going to harm me? Is he going to ask something that I cannot provide? Like, why is he asking me my name? Because for all those years, no one human being had ever asked me my name. So I told him my name is Peter, and he gave me some meat. And so he fed me for 1 year and a half. He did put me in school. It changed my life. And that's how I went to University in Uganda, University in England, and that's how I came to the United States, with the kindness of a stranger who I was trying to steal from.
It's unbelievable. God, as I've read your story and I've spoken to you before, Peter, for me, you have a God story. I mean, God weaved a path for you, and it's undeniable, but it wasn't without challenges. And when you think of a child born into such poverty, that's one burden. But then with an abusive dad, that's a second burden. You've mentioned before that you would see your mom getting hurt or abused at home simply because she was trying to feed her children. and you reached the point where you felt there was nowhere else to be, that it was better to be on the streets with no shoes, with no proper shelter, having to fend for yourself for food. And in doing so, committing a theft, which many people would, it's a slap on the hand and arrest, and this is a problem with society. This man saw grace and saw value and wanted to know you and know your story. And I love that moment created an entire journey for you through Now I Am Known. It's so beautiful. Will you talk a little bit for a moment about Now I Am Known?
Right. So, remember, I wasn't known, but he made me known. So for me, I created a foundation to make others known, to give an opportunity for kids who sometimes feels unwanted, unliked, unloved, that I can give them an opportunity to be seen, heard, and known. And that's why we created the foundation, to do room makeover, especially for teenagers, who have moved from home to home and they never feel wanted or never feel belong. And that's what we do, really giving an opportunity, giving such out, especially as a teenager, to choose their own bedding, to choose their own color of page they want in their room. Also to feel that someone stopped and said, what would you like in your room? And to make it new and fresh for them. We know our kids, they love being in their room. And if we can make them home and a place for them, it really makes them feel seen, heard, also safe, and feel like this is my space, that I made it myself, but also that belongs to me.
And the value of having a home and having something that's your own, that someone cared enough about you to ask you for your input in. And how special is that? And we take it maybe for granted in the traditional setting, that our kids, want to pick the pictures on their wall or the bedspread, and we kind of, yes, no, whatever. But it's very special, and it's very fulfilling for a child. You eventually, through the kindness of this man who fed you for a year and different interactions, you ended up going to school and getting a master's degree. You've gone to school in the UK and in the US, I think in California. And now, Peter, you're a foster dad, or you've been a foster dad. I feel like I've lost count. Is it 45 children?
47 as of today. Yes.
47 children. How did that happen? Was that God leading you there? Did somebody ask you to start adopting a child? Did you see a child that needed? How did that happen?
Well, what happened for me is when I came to the United States, a family took me for dinner, and I ate. I had never seen that much food in my life, and I ate everything that they gave me. But while I was eating, I saw how much, I saw people carrying food, and so I asked, where is that food going to go? They said, well, it's going to be thrown away because people didn't finish their food. And in those moments, I was really angry towards God, because I was like, well, how can others have so much to throw away and others die for lack of business? Because I lost members of my family for lack of business, So you're in the midst looking how much food thrown away and beginning to say, God, do you love us the same way? Like, can we read the Bible the same way and understand it, And that's how somehow I was led to Psalm 139, that to know that this man, he was grateful for God. Like, he didn't say, thank you for the many things you gave me, but he said, thank you that you know before what is in my tongue. That thank you that when I sit, when I stretch. And I knew every kid in Africa, every kid in Uganda, every kid in the United States stretches their hand, they walk. And I love what he says in 14, for you're fearfully and wonderfully made. And that really made me like, you know what? God loves me not best in the food, but best because I was fearfully and wonderfully made. And then I was also convicted on the other side, to whom much is given, much is required, that I felt of all people on the planet, I was the wealthiest human being, that I could have 3 meals that I never had before, And then for me, I thought, how can I live in the United States and have everything that I need and forget a list of these? So that's for me why I said, you know what? I know I've never seen a man who was a foster parent or who was adopting in Africa, but I'm going to go in and see if they can allow me to be a mentor. So the social worker who received me said, have you ever thought of being a foster dad? I said, I think about that, but I'm not qualified. I just said, why? I said, I'm saying much. She said, no, you can actually be a foster parent. That was on a Monday, and I signed up on Thursday to truly be a foster dad, to leave Lufthansa for 48, to whom much is given, much required. And that was really why I wanted to be a foster parent, because I had lived it, and I really thought that I can do something. I can change someone's life because someone did the same for me, and that's how I became a foster dad.
Peter, I don't think I've asked you this. When in Uganda, was your family or the culture Christian?
Yes and no. Very tradition. That they lived in, sometimes witchcraft. But at the same time, also, my mom was a believer, and my dad was Roman Catholic as well. So I would say they were believers, but they don't really lived it every day in a way.
So where did your life of faith come from? I mean, you're living out such a beautiful life of faith. Where did that come? Was it people you met along the way, or just being alone in sort of your life journey that God reached out to you? How did that happen?
So when I was 19, my first parents said, hey, there was a war happening in Rwanda during the genocide. And he said, hey, would you mind if you go rescue children and provide food and medication? So I went. On my first day in Rwanda, I saw more than 3,000 dead bodies on my first day. So in the midst of that, I thought, I'm going to die. But the question was, if I die, where will I go? So I asked the driver, I said, I would like to know Christ, my Lord and Savior. He said, come on, you work for the church. You know Christ. I said, no, I look like one. I act like one. But I don't know him as my Lord and Savior. I want to go to heaven, And that's how I became a believer, But also, I think I had too much anger towards my father, that I hated my father so much. And for me, the Bible didn't make sense. The Bible says, forgive even those who wrong against you. And I'm like, oh, come on. There's no way I can forgive my dad,
Yes.
But my foster dad really showed me, said, Peter, David was sold by his own family. But when they found out that he was alive, he used the word that you should use every day. He said, for what you meant for evil, God used it for good to save a life, And that really helped me to say, I'm going to embrace my life. I'm going to embrace whatever I went through and use it to do something good rather than go on the opposite side. And that's how I became a believer, by forgiving my father, because I knew that will not take me anywhere.
And now you've gone through the journey of fostering 47 children, adopting how many officially?
Right now, 4, and I'm in the process of adopting the other 2.
Amazing. You've dealt with children, and I think this is where your specialty comes from in your newest book, which I'd love for you to talk about. You've dealt with the reality of raising kids and seeing trauma pop through, seeing children who are in your care, where you want to give them everything that you can, and yet they still want to steal candy from a grocery store. And that's one of my favorite stories that you talk about. I love how you have dealt with these situations, and I think so many parents can hear that raising children's hard. It's hard for all of us. It's hard, especially for those children who come from backgrounds that are trauma-filled. Your book, Love Does Not Conquer All, is such an interesting title because we're told love conquers all. Well, when you have a stubborn kid and that tension's pulling through, and you yourself as a human that had your own history, it's sort of butting heads. Talk about some of the principles you share in the book. But before that, please tell your candy story about the little boy who stole the candy. And I know you have a few candy stories, but the one where you stole it as well.
Right,
I think
absolutely.
It's so it is packed with such wisdom that I love that story. I could hear you talk about it every day.
Right. Well, so I had a child who every time I went to the store, he would always say, I want to go to the bathroom. But I was like, why is it a pattern, So I followed him and I watched that he stole candy and went and ate it, So the next time we went to the store, he stole one and I also picked up one, So while he's in the bathroom, I followed him. I said, hey, what did you get? Like, I got this. What did you get? And you should have seen his face like, wait, did you just steal candy, But I said, whatever you got, I got this, let's have it. So I ate, and after I said, I'm done, do you want to go home? And so we went home, and he was speechless, And then after a day, I wanted to ask him, like, why did you take candy? And he told me, he said, hey, every time it was my birthday or Christmas, if I did something wrong, they would take away the candy. So I figured out to eat it and take it as quickly as possible when I find it, And I understood. So now instead of accusing him of taking away candy, now I saw empathy, that I understood why he did what he did. So we made a deal. I said, every time we come to the store, you got $2 So from now on, it doesn't matter. You never ask me why you spend it. You have $2. And that was the last time he ever did something. To this day, every time we go to Canada, like, can I have my $2? I'm like, sure,
How old is he now?
He's 19 now,
Peter.
Yes.
That's unbelievable. That's amazing.
Right, So
$2.
Exactly. But sometimes it's easy for us to see the behaviors and say, those kids are bad behaviors. Like, I can't believe you can do that. But when we understand why they do what they do, there's a reason why. And that helps us to understand, to have empathy and love towards them, because we understand the reason. And now we're here to help them overcome that reasoning of why that candy was important to him. I said, I used to be a thief. I would never have been your dad because I was a thief. Somehow I stopped and someone cared for me. And I want the same for you. And he understood that. He's like, okay, I understand. But I didn't judge him. I just kind of wanted to show that I can do it. But you can end up somewhere. And he understood, you know what? My dad understands me. And he was able to say, not anymore.
So you have a massive community online, parents of all shapes and sizes who follow you, from biological children to adoptive children to foster to divorced homes. I mean, you have become such a role model when it comes to parenting, because I think your strategies they're universally useful. So talk about some of the things that you talk about in your book, and why did you write the book? I mean, in your vision, who is the book for? Who are you hoping is going to pick up the book?
Three people. Someone who's always wanted to be a parent, but they don't know where to begin, because for me, that I wanted to be a parent, but I didn't have a resource to go and learn from, so I made mistakes. And along the way, I wanted to make sure that someone else does not make the mistake I did. And then the parents number two, the one who is a biological parent, a divorced parent, a foster parent, an adoptive parent, and they're in the middle of the thick of it, and they're saying, I want to give up. I can't do this, in some way, to give them a glimpse of hope that yes, it's difficult, but along the way, if you're faithful to keep looking at why the kids do that, you're going to see hope at the end of the day, And then the last one is for us to understand, like, hey, when we get faithful, God will see us through. Because now I have a 19-year-old and a 21-year-old, but I could have given up when they were 11 and 16, but I did not, But there are moments where I wanted to give up, and I wanted to encourage those parents, like, hey, don't give up. There's hope. And those are the three people that I wrote the book for.
As you've gone through this journey, have you had moments of stopping and certainly reckoning with God, thanking God for where you've come? And I'd like you to share any needs you have with this community, because this is a vast community of people who I'm sure will want to support you in your work. But have you had to do the tough work of dealing with your own trauma? Or and was that you and God, or did you go to a therapist, or did you go back and talk to your biological parents, or your parents still alive? I mean, what did that look like for you, Peter?
Well, for me, the man that took me in, my Lord showed me the best love, He loved me the most where I was unloved, And I think that really helped me to learn about myself, the behaviors or the things that I was doing, that there was this person who loved me unconditionally. And also, before I became a foster parent, for me, I went for therapy because I didn't want to bring my own trauma in my parenting journey, So also, as I learned about children and their trauma, I think I learned it for me. And, I just said, these lessons, I need to apply them to myself first before I can apply them to my children, And that truly helped me in some way to recognize that, but also know the journey that I was about to take, that those, the children and the things they're going to do are going to trigger my past, but to make sure that I'm aware of that and I don't really bring it into as I get to parent. And that's how really it helped me to truly overcome my own trauma. But also I get to use this. So it's like both, like there's part of me where I still go back and say, when I was 10, when someone did this, how did I respond, And that really helps me to give me the insight of my children to say, now I understand the empathy, or I understand the reason why they're doing 1 to 3, because I can revisit my own past and say, why did that make me do or react that way? And that's truly has helped me as well But I would say, above all, it was the kindness and the love this man had for me at my lowest point, that he always showed up with the greatest love, I can say, unconditionally.
It's such an important lesson for all of us. You know, the Bible talks about it in James 1:27 to look after orphans and widows in their distress. And so many of us are too tied up to do it. Or we write a check to some organization and we know that it's going to a child and it's so important, but that actual love, that sort of face-to-face interaction, so few of us get to experience that blessing in somebody else's life. And the 47 children that have had the luxury and the blessings of going through your home, have there been any that you're just like, okay, God, this one, I don't know if I'm going to make it. And what are some of the tricks and tips? And I think you ended up putting some in your book, but what are some of the ones you'd share now with the parents listening that got you through?
One, that I think for me that the God is faithful to be, is it Jeremiah, 29:11, that I will not give you what, I have plans for you, not to destroy you, but to prosper. And for me, that helped me. Like, God, it might seem difficult, but I don't think he would have let me be the father of this child had he not given me also the grace to overcome that, But also on the other side too, like there's a point where, especially for us who love children, like you want to help them, but realize that, hey, I'm not equipped enough to be able to be a dad to this child and able to let it go, because most of them is the guilt. When we let them go, we're like, I think I failed them, or I think I'm not a good father, because you are not able to really help this child. But to be able to say, please, just know that, yes, God has given us the opportunity to be parents and do what we can. But there are points where we feel like I'm not qualified to take care of that. And for me, that has helped me. When I have a child and I figure out, like, I don't think one is not helping for the children I already have in my home, that it's bringing distraction and all that. Like, to know I love this child, but I'm going to give a phone call to DHS and say, I don't think I'm equipped to love and give what this child needs. And that's okay, and that's taken me years to come along. But I've come to know, like, because I love this child, I'm willing to make sure that they get the best resource they need, that I know I'm not equipped to do so without having to feel guilty, and in that way, they get the best resource they need. But I have to recognize that on my end first.
Are you going to continue fostering indefinitely? I mean,
that's my calling, to be honest. Like, that's really my calling. You ask me, my needs are, like, absolutely. Like, right now I have 6 kids, and I just found out that there are 2 kids who need a home, and our greatest need right now is a vehicle. That if God could provide for us a vehicle that can take 8 children. As a single dad, I have to travel with my kids everywhere I go. So they want to make sure if there was fire at home, if someone needs to go to the hospital, do you have enough space for everybody?
Yes.
So right now, that's what I'm praying for. But just so I can take in 2 extra kids that need need a loving home. And that's the hard part. When you love so much, when you want to do something, but at the same time, you have limitations how far you can go,
No.
And that's kind of where I'm blessed to have a village that you can allow me to share in that sense, that a vehicle will be really powerful for us to have. And then number 2, we do room makeovers for teenagers. We would like to do as many as we can. So, anyone who can provide for us and help us and share our GoFundMe so we can help at least 20 children, teenagers, that we can provide a safe and loving home, a place to call home. Most of these kids have never been able to choose beddings. Like, we can give them that for them, that wherever they go, they have the resources that they say, this is mine, this belongs to me, I chose this, and this is how it can truly be there for them. So
how would people reach out to you if they wanted to support you in either of those requests? What's the best way to reach out to you, Peter?
Yes. One, you can, email me at peter@nowimknown.org, or you can, text me on Instagram or on Facebook. We'll share our GoFundMe where you can help us, but also they can come through you. If someone wants something and come to you too,
yes,
I know you can reach us.
Trust me, we'll share it. We'll do. I mean, Peter, it's such a broken world, and every day we're looking at the difficulties that our children face. And how wonderful are you? You didn't have to do this. You made it out of a very difficult situation in your own life. Yes, through the kindness of others, but you could have very well gone on, lived your life in the U.S. With your many degrees, and just gone on and been your own person. But the fact that you've stopped and halted, I think, other parts of your life to serve these children is so special. And I just always, when I think of you or talk to you, I think of that little boy in Uganda with shoes, no shoes, or shoes that don't fit properly, and who felt alone in the world. That little boy who felt alone in the world, who had to steal to get his next meal or rummage through discarded food to eat. That little boy is now leading this massive movement. I mean, it's so moving what God can do with a willing heart. It's just so beautiful.
Absolutely. And that's what I want our children in foster care to be seen. Like, it's easy to see them as kids with behaviors or whose parents neglected or don't want them. But I want them to see them in the same light someone saw me. You know, if Peter can be a parent, you know, that I believe our kids in foster care one day can be whatever they want to be, you know. The other part is that, like, I want to fight for their bio parents. Not every parent, I know deep in my heart that no mother gives birth to a child so they can go in foster care. You know, that along the way, something happened. And for us as a community, if we can come alongside these moms before they lose their children, have empathy and no judgment, but really come alongside and say, what do you need? Do you need a babysitter? Do you need a little something? Like, what can I help you so your kids are safe and they don't have to go through the whole trauma of being foster care? And I think that would work. It takes a village to raise a child, and I truly believe in that, you know. And I know not all of us can be foster parents, but we can all do something along the way, you know. Is it taking my teenagers for the ice cream or video game? You know, is it taking my daughter? I have 2 daughters, you know, for a girls' night, you know. There are ways we can. And I can tell you that there's no way I would have been here where I am had someone not come alongside. But I have my village that comes alongside that really helps me. And I think if we can do that to every child, to every community, I think we get to change the world, one child at a time, one community at a time. Also knowing that it's not according to everyone. We can all contribute something to do something for our kids in foster care.
And actually, we should all contribute. And I love you mentioned your 2 girls. I chuckled when I was on your Instagram page, which is Foster Dad Flipper. And Peter explained at the top of the show why that's the name, because he was flipping houses. But I chuckled when you were sort of going through the puberty issues with your girls, because I mean, that's a hard thing for any dad, right? That's a hard thing for any dad, but you just have such a wisdom in the way that you do it. And I'm really thankful that you're getting the attention that you're getting. It's the calling. You stood up when you were called, and you've walked through what God has asked you to do. And I'm just looking at your page. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. We're encouraging everybody to get your book, Love Does Not Conquer All, to follow you across social media. There you go. It's such a great, and it's an easy read, and it's a great resource. If you have access to a vehicle, an 8-passenger vehicle that Peter's praying for it, and the other is to support his Now I Am Known Foundation, which supplies rooms and does room makeovers for children who have never had their own. It's such a beautiful thing. Peter, as we sort of wrap up our time together, any messages of hope you have for parents who are sort of in the thick of it with their children, as you said today? What can we be waking up for and encouraged about for tomorrow?
Absolutely. So for me, for those who are single, this is a question for those who are single. If you're single and you're waiting to be married one day, you know, I can say, while you're waiting, actually, you can be a mom and a dad as well. For dads out there, it's easy. I think sometimes we're giving the role to moms only, but I would say 90% of the kids in foster care have never had a dad. That you becoming a dad will mean the world to the children. And for those who are in thick of it, don't give up, you know. Don't focus on the behaviors, but find the roots on how we can be there for our kids, you know. And then for those who don't want to be foster parents or do anything, remember, you're the best support for those kids who need the most. be our village. Come take my kids for movie night. Trust me.
Yes.
That will make me do laundry and go shopping and clean my house. Just that. It's little things that truly change the world. It's little things that you and I can do. You make good cookies, make extra, give to the mom that needs it. If you see a mom struggling, don't judge them. Ask, how can I help? And in that way, we get to be there for our kids. Don't judge parents who have lost their children because we've never walked in their shoes. To rather say, how can I pray for you and how to be there for you? And in that way, we get to change one child at a time, one family at a time, and one community at a time.
Peter, you're unbelievable. Peter Mutabazi, thank you so much for joining us on Parenting the Now Generation. We're all dealing with a completely different landscape as parents today, but we're finding hope and stories like yours. We wish you the best. We should all be praying for you and for the requests that you have. Follow Peter. You can reach out to him on his social media. You can also reach out to us. So, Peter, thank you. Thank you. Wishing you the best. God bless you always. And to everybody else, we'll catch you next time. Take care, everybody.